Hello, my name is Kevin Green. I am one of the members of the ETNZ executive. Welcome to today's session on getting into the industry. A bit of housekeeping rules. If you have any questions at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A box. Please put your questions into there and not into the general chat. We are also joined today by Malloy, who's also an ETNZ executive, and we have on our panel Kerry, who is the General Manager of Technical Productions at Auckland Unlimited, who has a full-time team of tech and over 80 casuals working for him. We also have Andre, who has 40 years of experience and has done many, many roles in our industry. So to get things started, could you guys tell us how you got into the industry?
Want to go first, Andre?
Oh, yeah. Mine was all about a large truck that used to come at a garage that I was working at. And the day I asked what they did was a couple of days before a large concert that I went to. And I put two and two together. And next time I asked if I could push boxes. And 6 weeks after that, 6 weeks after my name was taken down on the back of a cigarette packet, I got rung up and said, do you want to come and work on a concert? And the first one I got asked to work on was Kiss, and I couldn't go because I had school exams. So I then had to wait till the next one, which I think was George Benson. A long time ago.
How about you, Kerry?
Yep. I got into the industry as being a musician with an interest in electronics. Playing music, I was a percussionist, and spent a bit of time around the Christchurch Town Hall, where the manager of the sound department there was a guy who I got to know, and hung around quite a bit. Did a bit of volunteer work there, and eventually when he left, I was able to apply for his role, which I was successful in. And from there, kind of lots of different things along the way. But yep, came into it, as a lot of people did, from bands or volunteer groups and those sorts of things, that I'm interested in the other side of it as they go.
Actually, my journey is pretty much the same as Gary's. Started out as a musician and realized that the people who were playing with lights and sound and running the stages would have more work. So kind of shuffled sideways, realized lighting was real cool and never left. Got as far as I could in my hometown, applied for uni up here and made my way to Auckland and haven't managed to leave yet.
Thank you, guys. Well, we have no questions yet from any of our attendees, so I'll throw another one in. So for each of you, what one piece of advice you would give to people joining our industry?
Say that again.
One piece of advice would you give to anybody wanting to join our industry?
Start at the bottom and don't be afraid to do anything.
Don't be a dick and buy the best steel caps you can afford.
Yep, I'd go with both of those. I guess persistence is a good one as well. And be prepared to undertake tasks which may not be quite as glitzy or glamorous as what you might have seen more experienced people being part of.
That's good. Kerry, you have over 80 casual technicians working for you. And I know for me personally, my introduction to the industry was as a casual tech. And I learned lots of things by doing that. What kind of things do you look for as an employer when you're bringing on a casual technician?
I guess firstly, it would be fair to say our pool of casuals is less than 80 at the moment, which is causing a few issues. But I think we would not be alone there. It's pretty typical at the moment. But what we, I guess what we look for is people with some skill. We like experienced people, but we don't always have the ability to actually get them with experience because they're more often than not tied up in other jobs or have permanent roles or the likes. But one of the important things for me is people that have got good attitude and have already got or are able to be taught customer service skills. I think the technical side of it can often be taught if there's if people are kind of keen to learn it. But the best technician, I always say, is the one that turns up, not necessarily the one that is very, very good but doesn't show up, or is unreliable, or is particularly unpleasant or rude to people. So customer service is a little bit of a generalisation, but probably more accurately, people that have got good people skills, which can be quite rare in our industry.
Cool, thank you, Karen. Andre and Malloy, do you think, like, can employers do anything better to get us into the industry, do you think? I know, like, personally, when I emigrated over here 4 years ago, I found a big change in New Zealand was advertisement of jobs. The UK, there's a lot of advertised jobs, where I found in New Zealand, it's more about connections and talking to people. So is there anything we can do better here at the moment?
I think we need a larger pool of people is part of the problem. I mean, it still is very much a personality-based industry. A lot of the larger companies are all single identity owners. You know, there's any number of them. There's a little bit of a shift with some of the newer players where there's more of a group management structure or a group director structure, but it still often comes back to that single point of contact who you know, or that kind of thing. That over time, with what we're doing with the Skills Active program and everything like that, is going to eat into that. But there's still some definite people are different now as to they were when I started. I mean, they're less. I don't say people are less passionate, but they're not driven by passion anymore. They're not willing to work 20 hours in the day or the whole day. And now they'll be looking at that time and looking at how much money they're getting and going, is this worth it? Where in the past, certainly it was never even questioned. You know, there's a distinct change in that regard.
Yeah, see, I'm not seeing that quite so much with the younger technicians that we're getting through. Some of them are aware that, like, work experience where it ultimately costs them money isn't the best way to do stuff. But a lot of the younger techs are still doing ridiculous hours with us or volunteering to do extra shifts after extra shifts. Like last night when we made our way into queue to pack this in, I found in the main space 2 technicians that I had been doing a pack-in with at a different venue 12, 13 hours earlier. So I do think there's still that drive. I just think people are a little bit more aware of how trash rent is and how expensive living is.
Yeah, that's a fair call.
Yeah, it does certainly make it hard. And I also kind of think with the impacts from COVID, a lot of people have left our industry. So the people left in it are now working longer and harder to keep the things ticking over. So we need that input from the next generation of techs. We have got a question, guys, from Paul. Has anybody want to answer that?
What is the question?
The question's about, is there anything that, any central database of people looking to get staff or wanting staff and anywhere that people can door knock to try and, you know, get work or get staff. And I guess there is, the closest thing we've got is ETNZ and people putting up saying they're looking for people, or someone putting up on the same web space the fact that they're looking for work and they've got certain skills. We certainly keep a database of our casuals, but once again, like everybody, COVID's impacted on the amount of casuals seriously.
Yeah, Auckland Live's website gets hit quite a bit by people that are looking for work. And we always kind of forward those requests or applications, not quite applications, but we put them through to the areas where they can be looked at. And we've had a few successes out of that. That's probably because we're a reasonably large organisation, quite a high presence. So, people kind of see that. More often than not, it's people that have got experience in other places that might be in New Zealand, either temporarily or more permanently now. But that's one source that they do come through to us. But I agree that anything that comes to somewhere like ETNZ can only be a good thing. And certainly ETNZ is a good place to post vacancies and things on.
Paul's asked a second question, and that is, further about, are employers willing to send staff to other companies to gain experience and further their careers, particularly junior staff and new starters?
Staff are an investment from an employer's perspective. So it's in the employer's interest to give that staff member the best grounding they can. That said, different employers fit in different places in the industry. I mean, our business, we do work at the Theatre Royal, we do corporate work in the arena, we do large-scale concerts, we put up expos, and we're now beginning to do a little bit of film work. So we can, and there still is a propensity in our industry for the text to be general based. I mean, there are only a few lighting director designers. The pool of riggers is still quite small. So you end up being able to do a little bit of everything if you work in our industry. And most of the companies are down that road.
Yeah, it's good to say. I think, sorry, Kerry, you go ahead.
I was just going to add that I don't think there's any real reluctance for people to be shared around. More often than not, it's hard to organise, because when one organisation's deeply in need, it seems to, in our experience anyway, always coincide with our own peaks. And so getting people, particularly at last minute, from other organisations is always a challenge, and when we get asked, it's often a challenge. Yeah. But yeah, there's really no real reason, is there, why people can't be, particularly casual staff, can work anywhere.
And we do the same with our company. If somebody comes to us and wants experience in an area that we can't necessarily offer, or if we're quieter at this point, or if our main focus is somewhere else, we will send them to other places. At one point, about 15 of Q's casual technicians were ours that we'd lent to them. And same kind of thing, we used to have a pool with a few of the venues around Auckland where we actively work together to try and staff gigs and share people around, and to try and offset pack-in days where we could, so that the crew that were moving around between places could get as much work as possible and also still get some sleep.
That's become the biggest balancing act with the level of compliance that's now entering in our industry is the casual freelancer can work all night for somebody and then try or go and work all day for somebody else. And, they have to take every job as it comes because that's rent, but sometimes they're not the most safe person when they're turning up due to the lack of sleep, and that gets a little bit awkward. And yeah, it's a tough call. Some people manage the long hours much better than others.
Yeah, it's good to
We've
say.
seen crew home who have turned on.
Yeah, I think as a casual, it's great to be able to go to all those companies and do all those things, but it is very careful not to burn yourself out, and to also make sure you're not tired when you turn up to a job, because you're not going to do your job properly or to the best level. So you might not get further work if you're tired all the time. So I think that is something to bear in mind when you are getting into the industry. The other really good resource, I think the guys already said it, is the ETNZ website. On there is all our guides, job opportunities now, news, and all the courses we are doing. So, always do look at that as a point of reference if you want more information of what's going on. Have we got any more questions from any of our attendees?
I got a comment backing up the bus a little bit to the earlier question about what we look for in a staff member as an employer. And Kerry's 100% right with they need to be a kind of a good person. But at the top of my list is punctuality. First and foremost, if the person can't turn up on time, it's the root of all evil, and it goes right back to that being able to get out of bed when you've been up all night loading a truck, to be in the lobby at XYZ time, or turning up as a casual at the theatre door and being there at XYZ time. I mean, till you've had an overseas production manager shouting at you because you've only got 24 of his 30 people that he's asked for, you really don't understand the punctuality thing. He's asked for 30 people because he's got tasks and roles for 30 people, not 24 and then 2 half an hour later and then 2 more after that. The punctuality thing is kind of right at the top of my list. It's the smallest thing, but man, if they can't get there, it's a problem.
Thank you, Andre, for that. We have had a message in our chat from someone saying that ETNZ should have a database of all the freelancers or new people in our industry. We are looking into that. It's something we are aware of, and it's something we could talk about constantly. So we will look into that further, and thank you for saying that out to us. Any other questions from any attendees? Looks like there isn't. What? Oh, yes, we have a message from Spencer. What does someone need to do to move forward from starting out in the industry to being a standout practitioner?
Turn up.
Yeah. To pardon an expression is don't be shit. Be a good person, do a good job, and that doesn't necessarily you need to be the absolute best. There's lots of people I've come across over the years. The guy that is often the very best at their field is also the most difficult to deal with. So if you can be good at what you do, and if the best that you can do is perhaps doesn't put you at the top of the pile, you might be surprised to find that your best fits everybody else, because you're the guy that doesn't make waves. You are the guy that can get up in the morning, so yeah, the being at the top of your game is a multifaceted thing. It's work to your strengths is what I would probably say.
Yeah, well said. I think it's a matter of people, horses for courses, I suppose, is the best way to put it. So long as a person comes with a skill and I guess an appetite to learn more skills, they will get work, they'll get experience, and with experience they'll get better known, and it kind of snowballs. But main thing is that you've got an appetite to learn things, and maybe you don't necessarily come with I know everything, or come with what have you got for me kind of approach to things. And as Andre says, be a nice person. I think it's important.
It's also about knowing when to be a team player, when to stick with your guns, and when to say, sorry, that's my bad. And that's definitely a thing that takes a lot of time to learn, and that some of us need to learn more than once.
That's really well said. I think, look, we are a small community, and communication is so important. So with all of that, being a team player, I think it's really important to ask questions. There's plenty of jobs I've worked on, and the tech who's asked me a question, I've had a lot of respect for. The tech who doesn't ask me a question, gone and done a job and done it wrong, doesn't help. So I don't think don't ever be afraid of asking a question as well. It's important. Hope that answers your question, Spence. I don't think we have any more questions. Oh, yes, we do. So a question from Tim, and that's great comments. I'm trying to work with our local schools to find potential new tech. Seems to be like looking for hen's teeth. How do we make tech attractive to these kids? That's a good question.
Kevin has heard me yell about this for the last, 5 years now?
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues that we're finding with pulling kids out of high school tech groups is that a lot of the schools don't actually let the kids touch the equipment, or no offense to English teachers, but it's English teachers that don't know technical, that are teaching technical theory and design theory and being like, pick a god to pray to as long as the show happens. One of the things that my company has been doing a lot of is coming into schools when we do their productions and doing a workshop day once the show is open. So the kids kind of have a feel for how we work. We have an idea for how the kids work, and then we can poke stuff together and kind of pick the good kids out of the bunch. We do, I think it's like 10 different schools productions a year, and we get about 4 technicians out of it if we're lucky. But that said, our conversion rate of kids from high school to industry is about 60%. Long-term industry is about 60%. Yeah, pretty proud of that.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
Part of the battle is the getting what we do in the tech vocation recognised as a real job. I mean, we still find that mum and dad want Johnny or Jane to get a trade in behind them. So suddenly they're pushed down a road that they don't really want to go down, but they go down because it allows them to continue dabbling till they get kind of free or get their trade, and then they go straight back into theatre. I don't know whether that's good or bad. I mean, certainly I have reasonably good experience of a couple of quite different viewpoints of people that are doing apprenticeships for different reasons, and they struggle because it's not quite what they want to do. And the skills active stuff that ETN that we're all involved in is the beginnings of a pathway. It's just a slow road, you know.
Yeah, it's about getting, as you said, what we actually do recognized as a viable long-term career path. Like, my nana still tells her friends that I'm an operating theatre tech. And yeah, I've been a full-time technician for like 12 years now.
I mean, the other thing with our industry is to try and get the pay scale and everything apportioned. I mean, there isn't another industry where the person that's working in it is a computer programmer. They've got to know physics because they're hanging stuff up in a building, and then they've got to be a happy smiling face that can liaise with a wide range of people. That might be the shirt and tie that's writing the check out to the, you know, the grubby truck driver or the grubby person bringing the thing in. You know, there's a whole raft, and yet all of those skills make or go towards making the tech, the person, the useful person that they are, you know, but they're not really remunerated suitably for it, and they haven't been ever. I'm not quite sure how we lift that.
Yeah, I think that touches on the question from Paul about our industry being underpaid and how we rely on people who love the job and how to increase the profile of our industry. And in fact, I think that is a long problem for many years for our industry. And a lot of people think, you know, we're playing with lights, we're playing with sound, and they don't quite understand how hard it is. And like I said, there's so many disciplines in it now. And again, maybe Paul, our best approach is through our ETNZ qualifications and pushing that into schools, so tying that all together. We've also had, we've got another question from J.R. Richardson. I think, Kerry, you're going to answer it for us?
What's the question?
Disappeared.
Was it one of my staff? Yep. I guess qualifications are not as important as experience or appetite for the actual tasks. A lot of the people that do come to our industry, I think, often come with qualifications and skills from completely different areas. People that have got arts degrees and various other tertiary education, you know, what's the word? Skills, shall we say, that those are the people that show an appetite or an ability to potentially to be able to take on quite high complexity things, and therefore can learn and study and gain experience as a result of that. At the other end of that, you've just got people that have got no qualifications at all, but they're just dabblers, and I'm one of those people who just like to play, used those words before, but then turned that into something that was in fact a professional job. There are paths, you know, within the industry from that very kind of basic dabbling through to, you know, people that run quite big organisations. But I think if you ask me what I'm looking for, it's skills and experience is maybe an ability to, or an appetite to want to learn, and maybe to learn something new, because that's quite often the case as well. People come into it with no experience at all, but want to gain that. Not a very good answer, sorry.
Thank you, Kerry.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, thanks, good answer. Has anybody, any of our attendees got any other questions? We've just got a couple of minutes left. I think in our chat we've had somebody asking, we need some more on-the-job training where it incorporates trade learning at the same time.
Boy, do we have an opportunity for you. Which actually brings us around quite nicely. The ETNZ Skills Active qualifications are specifically designed for on-the-job training, so you can use the work that you're doing as a technician in the real world to work towards getting a qualification and a nice piece of paper that you can wave at your nana or your mum or whatever else you need. Part of the reason for that is so that we can help standardize the skills that people are learning and make sure that it's easy for people to move from like Auckland jobs down to Wellington jobs, down to Christchurch jobs, and make sure that the skills and the expectations of the employers will actually be met. Yeah.
Thanks, Malloy. I think we're about to run out of time, so I just want to thank the panelists today for making the time to come and talk to everyone. As for the attendees, if you're not already an ETNZ member, please join us a Coal member. Think about joining us as a bronze member and getting all our discounts. So that's a good benefit for paying that extra bit of money. And hopefully we'll see you guys working in the industry. So thank you, everybody. Don't forget that we have got the AGM today at 5:30, and you need to click and register on that if you want to attend. So thank you very much.